All right, I'm just making sure that everything is up and running right now. Trying to see if it is going through on Facebook. So just hold tight. Um, make sure. All right, so we're gonna get started. I believe it's live. I just can't tell based on of not being able to see it on my side, but we will go ahead and get started. So today's topic of discussion is going through career assessments. And to do that, I'm going to give a little bit of overview on the tools that we have available, and just to share some general insight about what we can do as coaches to help you and kind of try to model how to do a career assessment, first starting on your own and just working through some exercises. So to get started with that, just want to give an overview of the purpose of career assessments. So a career assessment is something that can help you kind of assess where you're at in terms of your career field, what you believe is going to be a good fit based on your strengths, your personality, your likes and dislikes about specific type of work experience. And so doing that is going to be able to show you, okay, these are some things that I'm good at, and these are the fields that they apply to, so that you can make better decisions and be more aware of how to utilize job searching and cater your strengths to the types of jobs that you're looking for. And so career assessments can be a tool for anyone, depending on your level of experience. It can be used by people who have been in their field of employment, have been working 15, 20 years, maybe are looking for a change of pace in work, or for somebody just getting started and are looking to, just get an idea of what might be a good fit for them. And so there are some resources available, but here are some of the ways that you can think of what is around you that can help you make that decision. So first, when thinking about this, you might want to think about the big picture. So thinking about the types of job fields available and also the jobs that are around you in your area. And so one way that you can do this is by going to job searching engines like Career Builder, Monster, Indeed, just to see what types of jobs are available. And then based on that, you'll have a better idea of, what are some of the areas that are actively hiring, which areas have strength and a lot of growth. So for Nashville in particular, we know that there's a booming hospitality and tourism industry. Construction is really big. there's a lot of hospitals and health services available. So I would say that there is definitely a well-rounded sense of what is available. And so just thinking about the types of job fields, you can try to come up with, what are two or three of the main skills and how did those fit into what my interests are? So if you think you like working with your hands, try to consider, is it something that I would want to be involved with through construction or maybe warehouse and assembly work? Or maybe it could be, working in a restaurant. So trying to think of what kind of some of your strengths are around that is going to be the first step. But there's always going to be jobs available that fit in with the field or industry that you might not think, but are, related to your strengths. So for example, within the hospitality industry, there are jobs around event planning and helping do the organization and facilitation, marketing of that. And so, maybe that kind of fits in with what you're good at when thinking about the big picture. How do you make a space that's convenient for guests and, like presentation wise? And so that might be something that you're interested in. Additionally, we had a meeting last week with two representatives from Vanderbilt who were talking about entry-level positions in health services. And that kind of opened my eyes to some of the jobs that are available for people regardless of their educational background. They are definitely marketing to people regardless of what your experiences are. So, don't count out what your actual job experience is, but kind of think about what you might be interested in first, and then you'll be able to kind of start thinking of possibilities for big career developments or how you can get your foot in the door in any of those fields. And so something that I find helpful is being able to craft a personal narrative and trying to see how your work experience lines up in terms of what you've done in the past and, trying to create a bigger picture of how that experience is going to factor into your future positions. So, just to give you a little bit of overview about myself and how I've kind of gotten myself in the place where I am right now. In my initial years of working, I had a couple of entry-level jobs in food prep and in doing some babysitting on the side just by, finding people who I was close with and who had trust in me and yeah, just like working with them independently. And so I learned that I really like working with people. I also got some experience as a HR assistant and seeing what it was like in an office setting, even though that was something that I think around the specific office I wasn't necessarily drawn to, but the type of work itself, just being behind the scenes was really interesting, kind of gave me a perspective on how that could apply to my life going forward. And so after that, I utilized my experience working with kids and, kind of being able to get into a summer camp where I was able to focus on big picture. And I realized through that I like to see people's growth and development. And I think that's something that honestly plays a big part into how I got to where I am now in being a job coach and just trying to help guide people like I did with campers and making sure they were focused on bettering themselves and yeah, just like looking at what we could do to help create a community. And that's another aspect that we're trying to do at the Martha O'Brien Center. So definitely focusing on problem solving as well as just working with people. That's always something I've had a knack for. So kind of learning that early on in my career process helped get me to where I am, as well as my first job out of college, which was working as a job coach in a reentry field, so helping people returning from incarceration get employment. And so yeah, I think all of those kind of flowed together and allowed me to decipher, you know, what do I actually like in the fields that I've worked in, and try to create a narrative where it's telling me that I can utilize the experience I've had in summer camp or working as a babysitter or in an office, and you know, allowing me to use that as, okay, how can I use that experience to get one step further from where I am now? And so another note, because I think a lot of times people consider work experience to be independent of one another, is to try to go against that. And that's why we do these kind of personal narratives, because you'll realize that you do gain something from each position you're in. And regardless if it's a job that you enjoyed or didn't, it's still going to factor into your experience. You know, if it was a job that you didn't like, maybe there were aspects about the job that you learned that you would change. And so that kind of gives you a perspective of what you would do differently. And maybe it says something more about the organization. So yeah, definitely being able to consider any experience you have as positive experience is going to help you in the long term. And so some other key things to think about when trying to decide, you know, what am I good at and how can I use that to dictate my work experience, is thinking about your soft skills. So that means that, you know, within any position, there are definitely ways in which you work that are going to translate to whatever job you're in. And so what I mean by that is styles of your work ethic. So if you're good at working with people, if you've had customer service experience or customer service skills, if you are a problem solver, if you are highly motivated or ambitious, or have leadership skills, all of those are kind of soft skills that are going to be able to bleed into the other areas of your work. And so definitely having kind of a sense of what was I good at in each of these positions will allow you to decide how can I use my skills that I've gained and, you know, bring that into other fields of work. And so it's definitely something that'll be good to highlight to employers, but also thinking about, you know, what have I been good at, and how can I fit that in my job search is going to be good for you too. Just doing quick Google searches of jobs that require problem solving and seeing a list and seeing if those are something that appeal to you is going to be good in, you know, kind of using your job experience and projecting what skills you've had into different fields and, you know, seeing if it sticks. So the next key part of this presentation is to go over some of the different types of career assessments. And so right now I'm going to highlight two websites that can help you in your career assessment process. And they're both tailored in very different ways. One is around personality type, and one is around specific job skills and interests and job responsibilities. And we also have access to another more in-depth career assessment that can help kind of guide, just guide whatever your interests are. And that's through the American Job Center. And we have access to that. So if that's something you're interested in, just shoot us a message and we can get you that information, because you need a code to do the assessment. So if you're interested in that, just give us a comment and we'll get that to you. So the first career assessment that I was going to highlight is the Young Personality Test. And so one of the ways that I think this is useful in thinking about career assessments is thinking about what your learning styles and communication styles are, and kind of utilizing what your strengths are and determining, what sort of fields would be good for you. I think that's something that to many people is unconventional, but it definitely, a lot of your strengths do derive from your personality. And so I found this really helpful in breaking down, what do I thrive on in terms of what work do I enjoy? What is my learning style and communication styles? And it highlights all of those in detail, as well as career choices that might be good for you. So in my instance, social services was the top career choice that was applicable. And there were others in there that definitely were secondary after that, but also kind of had a lot of overlapping qualities about myself. So I found that one very interesting. Um, the next is called My Next Move. And this is a career assessment based on job skill preferences. So it'll ask you many questions about what you would like in terms of a job. So if you would like to build cabinets, and having you rank that on a scale of 1 to 5, if you would like to develop a new type of sugar. So it kind of gives you a range of preferences on type of work, and then it categorizes that into various positions and skill sets. So one is investigative, one is social, one is I think research based. And so it kind of tells you based on your rankings, how many categories that you got. And it also has a lot of information on, it essentially puts specific jobs that line up with your strengths and tells you how much education you would need, what the specific qualities of that position are, so that you can get a full sense of what those responsibilities are, and if you would need to get into a different field or go to school for that. So I found that really helpful. They also have other ways to look into work just through doing a broad range of assessments. So you could look into social services, and it would tell you the top 10 positions within that field, and kind of break down what the skills are and what's required of those positions. And it also has the ability for you to search for specific jobs. And like I said before, it'll break down what is needed to get into that position in Excel. So those are the two main job or career assessments that I have used with people in the past, just to get a holistic perspective on the personality based strengths, as well as different job skill preferences. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what those two assessments can provide. And then you can definitely use those and try to craft another set of objectives when determining what is going to be a good fit for you. And so that leads to our last section, which is how to make use of this information. And so, like I said before, using kind of some of the key things that you found in your assessments based on strengths and interests, and trying to factor that into your job search process, just to see what type of jobs are available and see if there's any in particular that really stand out and appeal to you. And another way is to incorporate that into your resume, and, trying to highlight what you've been told or what you've learned about yourself that makes you valuable, so that you can kind of stand out to employers and, accurately highlight what your skills are. I think that's a good way to make a strong impression to an employer. And just always keeping those in mind when you're applying or interviewing for jobs. And we will be having a follow-up discussion based on this. So if you're watching this after the live event, you know, you can go through and do both of those assessments so that when we do have this follow-up discussion, we can try to share the information, see if people have various perspectives on how to make sense of that and kind of relate it back to what your previous experience has been, so that we can yeah, just try to help each other in determining, you know, what are some tangible next steps that I could take, or you know, just helping each other make sense of the information. I think is always useful to have another perspective, and especially somebody who might know you, just to give you an idea of how I can use that information going forward and make the best decisions for myself in terms of my career. So with all that said, I'm going to see if there are any questions from our live. Doesn't appear so. So thank you all for attending today. And I hope to see you at the next live event, and spread the word on the Re-engagement Hub and what we are trying to do here. We are doing something similar to what I did today in terms of career assessments, but over a much more long-term scale, and trying to work with you and, you know, seeing what your actual strengths and interests are. So thank you for attending, and have a good rest of your day.